It all happened so fast. One moment I was lost in a haze of alcohol, the next I was tangled with her, my sworn enemy Ki Kingru. A memory slammed into me, her family's heirloom ring, cold against my skin as she slid it onto my finger. "You're mine now," she'd declared, and the entire hall had gasped. The eldest miss of the Ki family, ever playful, grabbed my flailing hand, teasingly correcting me. "Hubby, you put it on the wrong finger." It was absurd. Everyone knew how much I despised Ki Kingru. A hatred that ran deep, a bitterness I couldn't explain. But what no one understood, what I myself am only beginning to grasp, is that I've lived before. In my previous life, a catastrophic fire had ravaged me, stealing my voice and face, leaving me broken and alone. Abandoned by everyone I knew, people recoiled from me in disgust. Then she appeared. She held me close, whispering soothing words even as I felt myself slipping away. "Ah Chen, don't be afraid. I'm here." It was then that the truth hit me with crushing force. The person I had hated most fiercely was also the one who loved me more than anyone in this world. In those final moments, she pressed her lips against my ear, a desperate plea escaping her hoarse whisper. "Ah Chen, can you please love me?" I wanted to tell her, desperately, but the words never came. Then, Rebirth. It was jarring, waking up on a red carpet at an awards ceremony, and there she was, a woman of unparalleled beauty leaning against a car, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. The world seemed to fade away, leaving only her silhouette burned into my vision. I ignored everything, every protocol, and sprinted across that red carpet, driven by a need so profound it overwhelmed me. I needed to tell her something she never got to hear in my previous life. "I love you," I shouted. The hall fell silent, the audience watching the live stream frozen in disbelief. The internet exploded. "What is Shi Shen doing?" they screamed. "How dare he kiss my boss, Ki?" They called it a desperate grab for fame, a delusional act of madness. Some said I was trying to provoke her, believing that the eldest miss of the Ki family would simply let me get away with such an outrageous display. After all, everyone knew about our history, the bitter rivalry stretching back to childhood. It was fueled in part by my own foolish obsession with Xiaomomo, who resented Ki Kingru's untouchable status. So I ended up hating her too, a twisted consequence of unrequited love. Even my manager, Song Yi, stood speechless, his face pale. He understood the complex and volatile dynamic between Ki Kingru and me, or so he thought. We were childhood acquaintances, but our relationship was anything but friendly. Wherever Ki Kingru appeared, I felt a need to disinfect the air. Not far away, Shi Yubai watched with a mocking smile playing on his lips. He couldn't believe I would dare to approach her this way. The bodyguards flanking Ki Kingru exchanged nervous glances, suspecting some elaborate scheme, poison perhaps. But their apprehension was nothing compared to the shock that rippled through me as I looked into Ki Kingru's eyes. I thought she would be angry, I remember thinking then. I expected scorn or rejection. Instead, there was something else entirely, a flicker of something I couldn't quite decipher. "He actually did it," Ki Kingru thought to herself. "He really came after me. I wanted to see what kind of trick he would pull. But this is unexpected." It happened so fast. Before I could even hear Ki Kingru's usual sarcastic quip, I found myself drawn forward, my lips pressing against hers. In that instant, everything seemed to vanish for her. She froze, and I saw the bewildered thought cross her mind. Was Chen planning to bite my neck? Did he miss? Should she say something? Remind me I'd gotten it wrong? A sigh escaped her, a sound so faint it felt like a gentle breeze could carry it away, and her heart seemed to tighten. Her fingers instinctively pressed against my shoulders, and the viewers in the live stream went absolutely wild, anticipating a slap. But Ki Kingru didn't slap me. Instead, she looked up at me, her expression unreadable, filled with a strange mixture of loss and something else, something I couldn't quite decipher. My own heart clenched fiercely. Everyone was waiting for that sharp sting across my face, but instead, Ki Kingru reached out and gently caressed my cheek. "What's wrong, Chen? Did something happen?" she asked softly. It was a tenderness I hadn't expected from the woman who always kept everyone at such a careful distance. The camera flashes exploded around us, relentless in their assault. The comments on the live stream scrolled by at dizzying speed, with viewers clamoring for an explanation. The number of people watching skyrocketed until the servers crashed, completely overloaded. "Hey, platform devs, hurry up and fix it," someone typed frantically online. If I don't get to see the eldest miss beat him up, I won't sleep tonight." In that moment, it felt like the entire world was fading away, leaving only her behind. My universe narrowed until it contained nothing but Ki Kingru. I missed you, I choked out, my voice hoarse with longing. My arms remained wrapped around her waist, my grip tightening as if afraid she'd vanish from my grasp. I really, really missed you, I repeated, the words raw and honest. She fell silent for a moment, clearly thrown by something unexpected. Then, she seemed to realize that I'd called her Ki Kingru, a familiar nickname reserved only for those closest to her. She looked around, suddenly aware of the onlookers who had been eagerly anticipating some dramatic confrontation. They quickly averted their gazes, some looking up at the sky, others staring down at the ground. Ki Kingru knew this wasn't a place for private conversations. Frowning, she tugged on my arm, wanting me to release her waist. But my panic flared with that simple gesture. I clung even tighter. Don't go, I pleaded. Please don't leave me, okay? I'll be good and listen to you from now on. I swear. A look of helpless frustration crossed Ki Kingru's face as she insisted we needed to leave, reassuring me that I wasn't going anywhere. Desperate for some kind of confirmation, something real to hold on to, I whispered against her lips, "Kiss me. Let me know you're real, please." Just as my lips brushed hers, the moment was broken. She pulled away. I longed to feel the warmth of her touch, a stark contrast to that chilling memory of her begging me to love her just days before. Ki Kingru's red lips pressed together, and internally, she scoffed. That Shi Chen's mouth has only ever known how to irritate me. What kind of blow did he take today to suddenly be sweet-talking me like this? She suspected a trap, a calculated move to trick her into creating some embarrassing moment for later mockery. He probably wants to lure me into a compromising situation and then use it against me as proof that I was seduced by his looks. But with a flicker of amusement, Ki Kingru's lips curved slightly upward. Too bad for him. The one thing I, Ki Kingru, have never feared is a honey trap. A chuckle escaped her as she reached out to touch my cheek, and in that instant, the live stream platform miraculously sprang back online. The camera captured us at the very edge of the red carpet, an exquisitely beautiful woman and an incredibly handsome man, frozen in what looked like a scene from a fairy tale, a prince and princess locked in an embrace. The anxious viewers erupted once more, flooding the comments with disbelief. Holy crap, they actually kissed! A full-on lip lock! The hot searches have completely blown up. Some speculated I'd exploited Ki Kingru's vulnerability through blackmail. Others believed I had seduced her. Still others claimed I used dark magic to bewitch her. No one could possibly believe that Ki Kingru genuinely desired such a kiss. The internet painted us as an impossible divide, one of us bathed in privilege, the other lost in the shadows. Cruel comments followed me everywhere. Just wait and see. Once the eldest miss comes to her senses, Shi Chen is definitely going to die a miserable death. But here I was, crammed into the silver ghost's backseat beside Kingru, staring at her with all the hope I could muster while she ignored a relentless stream of calls before finally silencing her phone in frustration. Then came those icy words, "Do you have amnesia, or are you mistaking me for someone else?" I hadn't mistaken her. I was absolutely certain. My hand instinctively reached out to embrace her, but she recoiled, fluttering her eyelashes and sharply instructing me to sit up straight. "No hugging," she snapped, clearly annoyed by the attention. "Behave properly." There's no audience. A flicker of displeasure crossed her face as she pressed further. "You want a hug every time you speak. What's wrong with you? Was he like this with Shiamomo before?" My hand paused mid-air, the brief contact with her clothes instantly withdrawn. I watched her carefully, searching for answers in her expression. She regarded my pitiful face with an almost pitying gaze. Something felt wrong. My nemesis was acting strangely. Hesitantly, she asked, "You really don't think I'm someone else?" I boldly answered, "Then you know who I am. You are Ki Kingru." I continued softly, adding, "My Ki Kingru." A ripple of something passed across her face, a subtle hesitation that sent my heart racing. She placed a cool hand against my forehead and murmured, "Are you delirious?" Her touch was a ghostly reminder of our final moment together, sending a jolt through me. "I don't have a fever," I replied quietly, clinging to the truth. She pulled away, arms crossed, her gaze sharp. "Spit it out. What wicked scheme are you concocting this time?" Then came the grim reminder of what awaited. The Shai family banquet tomorrow, Shiamomo's planned proposal to Shi Yubai, and the fragile political alliance hanging in the balance. If I remember correctly, she continued with a distant sadness, "The Shi family is hosting a banquet tomorrow. I heard that crazy woman Shiamomo already bought a ring." She's probably planning to propose to Shi Yubai herself. The Xia and Shi families also intend to continue their marriage alliance. Her voice grew colder. I was kicked out of the Shi family a month ago because Shi Yubai was kidnapped and almost killed. All the evidence pointed to me. My parents were utterly disappointed in me and publicly announced they were cutting all ties with me. My engagement to Xia Momo was also cancelled. A smile vanished from her face, replaced by something harder. Shi Chen, are you using me to get back at Xia Momo? I remembered seeing Chen striking Shi Yubai earlier, a shocking display of temper that left me reeling. I worried he'd lost control because of Xia Momo, rushing forward to intervene and only managing to complicate things further. Remembering those 2 stolen kisses, Qi Qingru's eyes narrowed with suspicion. For Xia Momo, you're willing to sacrifice yourself. I'm furious. She turned to me, confused. Who is Xia Momo? You don't even know her? Silence hung heavy for a beat before she reached out and touched Wenjing's shoulder. Hospital no. 1, she instructed, her voice flat and decisive. The driver responded without question, immediately changing course toward the psychiatric facility. My brow furrowed in dismay. It seemed Qi Qingru genuinely believed I was losing my mind. But pretending to be delusional might buy me some trust. It wasn't a bad strategy, because right now, everything else faded away. All that mattered was her. Just loving you is enough. Qi Qingru whispered those words in my ear, the weight of her challenge pressing down on me. I'm giving you one last chance, she said, her voice cold and sharp. Confess honestly what exactly you're trying to do. Otherwise, once you enter hospital number 1, don't even dream of coming out. The car was dimly lit, and as I turned to face her, a memory flashed, a younger version of her, before the fire irrevocably changed everything. I used to think her eyes were like frozen pools, untouched by warmth, 1,000 years of ice refusing to melt. But now I knew there was an inferno blazing beneath that icy surface, her love intense enough to boil those glacial depths. I'm not planning to do anything, I said softly, meeting her gaze. I just want to love you. Her carefully constructed composure shattered instantly. Want to love me? How exactly do you plan to love me? She challenged, a dangerous smile curling her red lips. She pressed, twisting my words from earlier that morning when we'd crossed paths at the club. A sudden flashback. Why now? Then it struck me, stepping into an elevator, brushing past her, and remarking to Song Yi about needing air freshener, a needless jab meant to sting. My gaze wavered for a moment. She chuckled, playfully mocking my guilt, but I rallied, feigning innocence. No, I really don't remember, I insisted. What did I say? Did I tell you that you looked especially beautiful? That I especially like you? That I especially love you? Qi Qingru pinched me sharply on the arm. Don't play dumb with me. She pressed further, wanting to know if I'd showered other women with similar affection. With a playful tone, I asked her what type she preferred. Her response was haughty and dismissive. I don't like any type. Before she could finish, I leaned in close to her lips, testing the boundaries of our tense dynamic. Qi Qingru snapped back to reality, pushing me away with a frustrated exhale. Her face flushed red as she spoke through gritted teeth. I looked deeply into her eyes, a hint of teasing flashing within them. Is this still not enough? Taking advantage of the moment, I gently wrapped my arm around her waist, drawing her closer. With expectant eyes, I asked softly, then how about I let you kiss me back? Is that okay? Wenjing, our driver, perked up in her seat, practically begging for a resolution. Qi Qingru's gaze uncontrollably fell on my lips, her red lips slightly pursed. She wrestled with the thought, he wants me to kiss him back. The word, okay, hovered on the tip of her tongue, but what escaped her was 3 words laced with frustration, in your dreams. My expression instantly fell, a shadow of disappointment crossing my face. Qi Qingru suppressed the erratic pounding of her heart. I can't let Chen fool me, she thought, trying to maintain control. Does he think he can seduce me just by doing this? She quietly leaned back, creating a small distance between us, and a subtle inflection entered her voice that even she didn't quite notice. Who taught you all this? Xia Momo? I already told you I don't know Xia Momo, I retorted, exasperated. Why do you keep bringing her up? Who even is she? Besides, you're the one who taught me all this. Xia Momo doesn't even like me. Qi Qingru's patience seemed to be wearing thin. She said in annoyance, Shi Chen, how much longer are you going to keep up this act? My mood sank. I was telling the truth. I only love you. I only want to love you. Why won't you believe me? Why is Qi Qingru so hard to deal with right now? I thought that as long as I confessed to her, she would accept it right away. Could it be that she doesn't love me yet? Her playful eyes locked onto mine for a few seconds, probing and assessing. "You don't know Giacomo?" I nodded, confirming my denial. She smirked, a hint of amusement in her gaze. "You say you only love me, only want to love me." And I affirmed this again, desperately hoping she would finally believe me. I couldn't read Ki Kingru's thoughts, but she suddenly chuckled, a sly glint in her eyes. "All right, it's not that I don't believe you, but you have to prove it to me first." I batted my eyelashes and grinned, playing the part of an innocent fool. "Do you think just being this intimate is enough? Do you want to spend a little more alone time with me?" Wenjing, driving us, nearly swerved off the road at her reaction. It's amazing how oblivious our eldest miss can appear sometimes. Ki Kingru's face flushed crimson, and she bit out my name, Shi Chen. I looked at her with wide, innocent eyes, pretending to be utterly bewildered by her discomfort. She suppressed a frustrated sigh, lightly poking my forehead. "Get those ridiculous thoughts out of your head." Reluctantly, I agreed. After taking a deep breath to compose herself, Ki Kingru instructed Wenjing to return to the Shenyu Hotel, a Ki family property and the site of tonight's award ceremony, followed by a celebratory banquet. She agreed to attend because the Ki family was hosting, but mostly because she knew I'd be there. I came originally just to make sure Chen wouldn't get hurt, which is ironic considering his behavior. That bastard doesn't deserve my kindness, Ki Kingru thought, glaring at me as Wenjing turned the car around. I asked in confusion, "Why are we going back there?" Ki Kingru leaned back against the car seat, returning to her usual languid posture, but her tone dripped with sarcasm. "To give you a chance to show off, of course. To prove just how sincere you are when you say you like me." I furrowed my brows slightly. It was at that very celebration banquet at Shenyu Hotel in my previous life that I'd been framed a truly absurd situation. I'd completely lost it then, wanting nothing more than to kick Ki Kingru out. She had remained surprisingly calm, even offering to marry me. I coldly told her to leave. And if I remember correctly, the spiked glass of wine that led to my downfall was handed to me by Shia Momo herself. Under the dim light in the hotel lobby, I glanced at Ki Kingru. Her eyes were closed, and her face looked exquisitely beautiful as she rested. In the past, influenced by Shia Momo's perspective, I'd always considered Ki Kingru distant and unapproachable. It wasn't that I didn't want to get close, it was that I was afraid of what might happen if I did. Back at the hotel, the awards ceremony was underway, but those who weren't particularly interested had already gathered in the banquet hall for the celebration. A mix of wealthy young masters and ladies were there, enjoying themselves. The atmosphere felt unusual. People were intentionally or unintentionally watching Giacomo. After all, the young master who'd been relentlessly pursuing her since childhood was now seemingly vying for the attention of her sworn enemy me. And Ki Kingru, always overshadowing her, only added to the awkwardness. As a result, none of the usual playful banter was happening, as no one dared offend Giacomo. Giacomo was visibly irritated. She leaned back on a sofa, scrolling through her phone with frustration. A video of me was trending online, and she kept replaying it, each time fueling her annoyance. Tossing her phone aside, she snapped to Sutian, "Tell them to take these trending searches down." Sutian looked surprised. "Why? Don't tell me you can't bear to see people cursing at Shi Chen?" Chiamomo glared at her. "What good does it do me to see him get cursed at?" Sutian clicked her tongue. "It might not benefit you, but it benefits Xiaobai. The worse Shi Chen's reputation gets right now, the better Xiaobai's will look. Since you like Xiaobai so much, why do you even care about me?" That accusation only fueled Xiaomomo's annoyance. "Are you out of your mind?" Sutian seemed genuinely bewildered. "When did I ever say I liked Xiaobai?" She looked utterly confused, questioning Momo's sanity and suspecting she harbored feelings for me. But Momo remained silent, a silence that spoke volumes. Sutian pressed further, trying to understand Momo's motives, pointing out her consistent favoritism towards Shi Yubai and dismissiveness towards me over the years. The other girls had noticed this pattern. They all assumed I was just another conquest in Momo's game of manipulating those around her. It seemed absurd to hear that she actually harbored feelings for me now. Momo finally broke her silence, attempting to justify her behavior. She claimed it was all part of a plan to teach me a lesson and force me to acknowledge my place. I wasn't going to be allowed to treat her disrespectfully simply because of my status as the eldest son of the Shi family. She deserved better than that. She intended to make me so dependent on her, so desperate for her attention, that I would eventually crawl back begging. Sutian was stunned by this revelation, the calculated cruelty behind Momo's charade. It was a masterclass in manipulation and truly shocking. Then Sutian reminded her of the impending proposal to Shi Yubai tomorrow. Aren't you planning on forcing a proposal on him? Momo insisted she only desired me, that I was her intended match. Sutian attempted a gentle reminder about my current situation, that I hadn't returned and had instead sought out Ki Kingru. Momo brushed it off dismissively, worried about the possibility of losing everything to someone else, which is why she hasn't finished teaching me yet. He wasn't obedient enough. She believed I was attempting to provoke her by assaulting Shi Yubai and then seeking out Ki Kingru, hoping that would make her regret the proposal. She scoffed at the idea that Ki Kingru would ever reciprocate my attention, that I was simply embarrassing myself. Just relax, she declared confidently. He'll come crawling back on his knees soon enough. But just as those words left her lips, the banquet hall doors swung open. A hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to see me walking in hand with Ki Kingru. Momo visibly stiffened, her gaze fixed intently on me. Ki Kingru smiled warmly, and with a playful gesture, intertwined her fingers with mine before we settled onto a sofa across from Momo's group. The silence was deafening, thick with unspoken tensions. "Ah Chen, come over here," Momo called out in a saccharine voice, but Ki Kingru leaned close to my ear, whispering provocatively, "Didn't you want to prove that you love me? Dare to kiss me now?" My heart pounded as I considered her words, and impulsively, I kissed her. A collective gasp rippled through the room, the silence deepened, broken only by the shocked murmurs of the onlookers. How could I have been so bold? It was a moment that would be remembered, one that defied expectations. The thought crossed my mind, even if she was deliberately trying to provoke Xia Momo, wasn't there a danger in pushing her too far? A dose of that medicine could easily shatter her completely. But then Ki Kingru appeared beside me, delivering a pointed remark. What exactly is Miss Xia hoping to achieve? I watched as Xia Momo repeatedly attempted to storm over, only to be blocked by Song Yuanyuan, one of Kai Kingru's friends. It seemed that group had been observing from the sidelines ever since I joined her. I'd seen all the online gossip surrounding this rivalry, and now here I was, witnessing a live spectacle. Song Yuanyuan looked genuinely surprised, yet keenly observant of Xia Momo's reaction. "You can't do that," she declared, stepping directly into Xia Momo's path. "My dear Ki Kingru's moment shouldn't be ruined by someone like you." Xia Momo sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "Get out of my way." Song Yuanyuan countered with a playful smirk. "You tell me to move? What if I don't want to?" Xia Momo seethed. "I'll say it one more time. Get out of my way." But Song Yuanyuan just shrugged and challenged. "And what are you going to do about it?" Tension thickened the air as Xia Momo raised a finger, pointing directly at Song Yuanyuan's face. It was then that I realized this must be what Ki Kingru meant by proving something. She doesn't believe in my feelings for her. She thinks I'm using her. She clearly expected me to back down. Little did she expect how willingly, completely and utterly I would step into the fray. Ki Kingru watched with a slight smile playing on her lips, then spoke, breaking the silence with a quiet laugh. "All right." The room fell silent as everyone turned their attention to her. Her voice was cold and sharp. "Don't dirty up my place." A wave of apprehension rippled through the crowd. This was Ki family territory, and there would be consequences for any disruption. Someone glanced towards Xia Momo, silently seeking direction. Xia Momo fixed her gaze on me, a desperate plea in her eyes. Suqian hurried forward, practically shoving words at me. "Shi Chen, can't you see someone is bullying Momomo? Go help her." All eyes were on me, even Ki Kingru's. Did she really want to stage a spectacle like this in front of everyone? I lowered my head, pretending not to hear Suqian's insistence. Ki Kingru pursed her lips, clearly sensing my reaction. Did my words sting? Xia Momo could no longer contain herself. She hadn't received even a single glance from me since I entered the hall. It was unlike anything I'd seen before. Panic flickered in her eyes as she realized something vital was slipping away. "Shi Chen, if you're done playing games, come over here and let this go." I finally raised my head, meeting her gaze for the first time that evening. After only a brief moment, I stood up and approached Xia Momo, knowing what it would accomplish. Her annoyance vanished, replaced by a triumphant smirk. She was certain I had simply been trying to make her jealous. As I walked over, everyone instinctively made way, including Song Yuanyuan. She glared at Xia Momo with obvious disdain before reluctantly stepping aside, muttering under her breath, "Men really have terrible taste." Kai Kingru's cheeks flushed a little as she watched me leave, biting her lip and fighting the urge to pull me back. "One harsh word and your face clouds over," she thought bitterly. "She treats you so terribly, yet you still crawl back." After all these years, I should have been used to it by now. It's just that my performance felt too convincing today, leaving me feeling strangely disoriented. For a fleeting moment, I even dared to hope that Ki Kingru was finally willing to reciprocate my feelings. Still, I decided this would be the last time I helped her, one final act of manipulation. She stood up abruptly and walked away without another glance. Then, a commotion erupted behind me. Oh my god, Ki Kingru! It was Xiaomomo pointing at me in disbelief. Say that again. I turned to face them with a bright smile and repeated, even if I say it 100 times, I still don't like you. I wouldn't even give you the time of day. And then, just to make sure she understood, I added, is this Xiaomomo? It was all part of my plan. I'd told her that I would never return her affections and wanted her to stop causing trouble. Ki Kingru, is that clear enough? Her heart seemed to skip a beat. Did I really manage to convince her that I'd lost my memory? Seeing her silence, I rolled my eyes and decided on another tactic. Clutching my leg, I feigned pain. My leg seems to be cramping. Ki Kingru, please help me up. Was my acting believable? Ki Kingru stared at me for a long moment before stepping forward. Without a word, she placed her arm around my shoulder to support me. My heart soared as I looked up at her. A wide smile stretched across my face. Xiaomomo's expression twisted with fury as she glared at us both. Ki Kingru, where are you taking me? He's mine! A wave of apprehension washed over me. If Ki Kingru took me away from Xiaomomo now, I would truly lose her. But Ki Kingru simply tilted her head and regarded Xiaomomo with a cold gaze. The warmth in her eyes vanished, replaced by a triumphant smirk. From now on, he's mine. HN wanted to come to me on his own. So whether he's lost his memory or is just using me, he has no way back. There's no regret for him now. She smiled radiantly as she led me away, the one who had taken the initiative to walk toward her. Ki Kingru insisted we go to the hospital, claiming it was necessary. As we drove, I found myself wanting to lean closer to her. Ki Kingru sharply corrected, sit properly. My lips quirked into a playful smile. Don't you like it when I hug you? That woman, Ki Kingru, leaned back against the car seat and remarked indifferently, did you cling to Xiaomomo like this too? Always needing someone else. I frowned, feeling defensive. Why do you keep bringing her up? Ki Kingru turned away, looking out the window without responding. Do you think I want to bring up Xiaomomo? You've liked Xiaomomo for so many years. Have you really forgotten? Upon arriving at the hospital, Ki Kingru arranged for a comprehensive checkup, including psychiatric evaluation. I remained silent throughout the process, figuring that if it would put Ki Kingru at ease, then I'd simply endure it. The tests were unremarkable, but the psychiatric evaluation was grueling, with endless questions. I answered none of them, claiming ignorance to everything. Only when they asked about Ki Kingru did my eyes light up. The doctor seemed conflicted after a lengthy assessment. He finally scribbled something on the diagnosis sheet and handed it to Ki Kingru, who had been waiting with an unsettling smile. He placed the paper in her hands. Don't worry, his mental state is perfectly normal. There are no major issues, it's just this little ailment. I followed him out of the room. As it turned out, he and Ki Kingru knew each other. The doctor smiled at me before telling Ki Kingru he was busy and quickly left us alone together. I thanked him profusely as he headed back to his office, then approached Ki Kingru with an innocent expression and asked her what the doctor had said. She glanced at the medical record and handed it to me with a complicated look. See for yourself. I took the paper and scanned the diagnosis. Physical and mental exams show no organic pathology. Mood is affected by emotional issues. Mind is normal. It was all so confusing. What does this mean? Ki Kingru sighed. It means you're lovesick. A wave of happiness washed over me. This doctor really knows her stuff. She examined me thoroughly with a complex expression, noticing there was nothing physically wrong. If he's feigning illness just to get close to me, what exactly is Chen hoping to achieve? What could possibly drive him to risk everything unless it's for someone like Xiaomomo? It's hard to believe someone could change so drastically in a single day. Ki Kingru couldn't contain herself any longer. She reached out and gently touched my head. No signs of injury, no swelling anywhere. She carefully checked me over, asking if the elevator doors had crushed my head this morning. I was speechless, feeling slightly foolish. You can be a little less sarcastic, I mumbled helplessly. Why won't you believe that I genuinely like you? Ki Kingru's gaze intensified as she challenged me directly. You tell me, would you believe it? I conceded the point. In the past, I didn't truly understand how deeply Ki Kingru felt about me not until the fire. Actually, I said seriously, I've always liked you a lot. Always? Her eyelashes fluttered with surprise and doubt. Yes, I insisted earnestly. I just never dared to get close before. You're so incredible, but also often distant. I constantly felt inadequate. A flicker of disappointment crossed my face. Ki Kingru raised her eyebrows in a mixture of annoyance and amusement. Shi Chen, don't play the victim. You were the one who was always cold. I tried to defend myself, me. I just couldn't have the person I loved, so it twisted into resentment. Ki Kingru clenched her jaw in frustration. Sweet talk won't work on me, she snapped. Don't try to change the subject. My lips twitched with a playful smile. Can't you just let me win this once? I'm confessing to you seriously right now. After a long pause, she abruptly turned and walked away without another word. I watched her retreating back, realizing she had no intention of stopping. Ki Kingru, I called out. She froze and reluctantly turned back towards me. I softened my tone as I spoke. Ki Kingru, my leg hurts. Immediately, she recognized that I was trying to manipulate the situation. With a scoff, she retorted, then don't move. Undeterred, I remained still and silent. Just then, Ki Kingru reached for the elevator doors, closed her eyes briefly, and then turned back without hesitation. Shi Chen, she whispered fiercely in my ear, I must have owed you something in a past life. I chuckled softly, placing my hand on her shoulder and leaning close to kiss her cheek gently. No, I murmured, I'm the one who owes you, Ki Kingru. A fraction of the frustration melted from Ki Kingru's features as she shot back playfully. Humph, you owe me? Then you should be carrying me? I responded with a wry smile. Normally speaking, it's never easy for a creditor to collect a debt. The bigger the debt, the harder it is. So, the creditor must coax the debtor and stay close. Only then is there any chance of slowly getting that debt back. You certainly have a lot of excuses, she scoffed softly. Leaning closer to her ear, I whispered, the debt I owe you is immense. You have to stay by my side for a lifetime so I can slowly pay you back, Ki Kingru. Is that all right? A lifetime? She looked up at me as the elevator doors closed. Shi Chen, do you even know what a lifetime means? Of course I do. We locked eyes. I vowed time and again that I would never leave her side in this life. We'll grow old together. Currently, Ki Kingru lives in the same apartment building as me. She's on the upper floors while I am below. When my family exiled me, I was without a place to go until Song Yi kindly helped me rent an apartment. Only later did I find out that apartment actually belonged to Ki Kingru. She'd secretly rented it out to Song Yi at a reduced price. She walked me all the way home, teasing me relentlessly about my lack of composure. Can I really not come stay at your place? She playfully challenged. My reply was a frustrated glare. I finally retreated inside, lingering at the doorway before closing it shut. The moment she confirmed I'd stepped inside, the frustration vanished from Ki Kingru's face, replaced with pure joy that she desperately tried to hide. Her lips tilted upward in a suppressed smile. Tonight had been unexpectedly thrilling. Those words from the hospital elevator, never leaving, growing old together, echoed in my ears, but they still felt like a dream. Could this really be happening? Unbeknownst to me, my actions had stirred long-buried feelings within her. She fought back the urge to bring me home with her, and after one last longing look at the door, she went upstairs for a shower. Then, inexplicably, a sharp pain pierced her hand, no mark visible, but the ache was real. As she sat on the sofa examining it, the doorbell rang. It was Xia Momo, grinning on the intercom screen. Cannot Chen, please let me rest, she sighed playfully, then added with a self-mocking smile, though I suppose I was hoping you'd come over. Opening the door, her exasperation was evident. Shi Chen, do you have any idea what time it is? She noticed I hadn't even changed my clothes. I held out my scratched hand, feigning helplessness. Mao Tu got me, I lamented. The scratch was clearly visible. Her eyes widened as she stared at the injury, an unsettling coincidence. Isn't this exactly where I just felt that pain? Recovering quickly, she asked if I'd cleaned it. When I admitted I didn't know how, she frowned. You own a cat and you don't even know how to treat a scratch? Then she revealed a secret. Mao Qiu is my cat. I brought him with me when I left the Shi family 4 years ago. The revelation hung in the air, unnoticed by me as she gently pulled me inside. A flicker of amusement crossed her face as she turned back, and I quickly adopted a wounded expression, hoping to elicit sympathy. She dragged me into the kitchen, turning on the faucet and holding my hand under cool water. As the water flowed over the scratch, it stung slightly. As she held my hand, her grip trembled subtly. Another wave of pain shot through her own hand. Studying my wound, she saw a shallow scratch, just a broken layer of skin with a touch of blood seeping out. Pushing aside any strange thoughts, she said, "I'll call someone over, give you a rabies shot later." Yeah, I nodded. We were standing so close together, I lowered my head slightly and saw her small face, brows furrowed in concern as she looked down at her own hand. My heart fluttered. She felt awkward under my gaze, tugging playfully at her collar. "Stingy," she scolded lightly, pushing me away. She paused for a moment, then asked with genuine curiosity, "Why did your cat scratch you? You've had him for so long. Why would it suddenly scratch me? It's ridiculous. It's a male cat that I personally took to get neutered." I muttered under my breath. "I feel like there's something unclean in my house." Ki Kingru looked at me, momentarily speechless. "Ah Chen, you really can make up anything." But I insisted, looking at her with absolute seriousness. "It probably saw something and got spooked, that's why it went crazy like that. Ki Kingru, I was seriously too scared to go back right now. The moment it sees me, it goes completely feral." I felt a pang of guilt. It felt like Mao Q had realized something was off about me. So I looked at her with eyes full of expectation. "So can I stay at your place? Crash here for the night?" Ki Kingru leaned in and looked at me skeptically. "Ki Kingru, how is this the first time I'm realizing how thick-skinned you are?" I swore with absolute certainty everything I said was true. If she didn't believe me, she could come downstairs and see for herself. After a few seconds of scrutiny, she nodded. "Fine." She brought out the first aid kit and took my hand to disinfect the scratch. The moment the antiseptic touched my skin, a sharp sting flared on the back of my hand. Ki Kingru's fingers gripping the cotton swab tightened slightly. She seemed to feel some of my pain. She looked at me. "Does it hurt?" I nodded and said, "Just a little." We went downstairs. The moment the door opened, I immediately hid behind Ki Kingru's back. Ki Kingru turned to look at me helplessly. "This is your house. What are you hiding from?" My eyes were full of mixed emotions. It's really aggressive. Earlier, when I got home, Mao Qiu was curled up sleeping on the sofa, giant fluffy furball. I sat next to it staring blankly for a while, and my fingers gently rubbed its fluffy head. It had been a long, long time since I last felt that kind of softness. In the fire from my past life, Mao Qiu didn't make it out. Suddenly, it woke up. At first, it nuzzled its head into my palm, but just as it was about to jump onto me, its round eyes suddenly widened. Almost instantly, its fur stood on end and it went crazy. I couldn't pull my hand back in time and got scratched. I panicked, stood up, and backed away. Mao Qiu arched its back, glaring at me fiercely. Seeing that it was about to lunge at me, I instinctively ran upstairs to Ki Kingru's place. Now, the door was open, and the lights inside were on. Ki Kingru saw that I didn't look like I was lying, so she took a step toward the living room first. As soon as she stepped into the entryway, she saw Mao Qiu spinning in circles on the floor. Ki Kingru turned back to look at me in disbelief. "This is the really aggressive cat you were talking about." I was just about to speak when I heard a noise. Mao Qiu looked over. The cat that had been happily playing just a second ago instantly puffed up its fur again, arched its back, bared its teeth, and prepared to lunge at me. Instinctively, I grabbed Ki Kingru's small hand and reflexively stepped in front of her to shield her. See, this is exactly what it does. Mao Qiu looked like it was about to attack. Ki Kingru pulled me away from it, then scolded it coldly. "Mao Qiu, stop it." I gripped Ki Kingru's hand tightly. "It's a cat. You think it understands what you're saying? How about we just leave for now? I'll have someone take it to the vet tomorrow." Right at that moment, Mao Qiu looked directly at Ki Kingru. It was visibly stunned for a second. Then the ferocity in its eyes suddenly vanished. Its bristled fur instantly smoothed down. It looked like it had just reunited with a long-lost family member. It rubbed against Ki Kingru's legs, meowing softly, acting all spoiled and clingy. Ki Kingru felt like its behavior was a bit too similar to mine. She spoke up, her voice softening. "I think it's more obedient than you are." I was completely speechless. I silently cursed this ungrateful furball. I worked so hard to raise him. How could he do this to me? Ki Kingru smiled. "All right, let go." I stubbornly held onto her hand, refusing to release it. Leaning close, I brushed my lips against her cheek, a fleeting moment of connection that felt both familiar and bittersweet. A wave of unexpected sadness washed over her. "You rascal," she murmured playfully, "always stealing kisses." She picked up the cat, Mao Qiu, and settled onto the sofa, gently stroking its fur as she carefully checked for any signs of distress. The usually skittish cat was surprisingly calm in her lap, completely still under her touch. I watched from a distance, wanting to approach, but then Mao Q suddenly snapped his head toward me, growling low in his throat a sound so unlike him. Ki Kingru paused, a flicker of confusion crossing her face as she soothed him with a gentle pat on the head. "Who are you being fierce with?" she asked softly. The cat let out a frustrated meow before settling down again, though those wary eyes remained fixed on me, a silent accusation I couldn't quite decipher. She looked up at me, clearly seeing the disappointment etched on my face. I clenched my fist, running a hand through my hair in frustration. "There's nothing wrong with you," I said, my voice tight with exasperation. "Then why are you acting like you don't even recognize your owner anymore?" My expression darkened, and a seed of doubt began to sprout within me. Maybe the problem wasn't the cat at all. Maybe it was something else entirely. I know she isn't superstitious, but cats are sensitive creatures. What could I have done to upset him so much? Was this truly A-Chen standing before me? The thought sent a jolt through her heart, a sudden rush of anxiety and uncertainty. She placed Mao Q on the floor, playfully nudging his rear with a light pat before he stubbornly hopped back up onto the sofa and curled up right next to her as if seeking comfort from my absence. "A-Chen," she said softly, extending her hand toward me, an invitation I hadn't realized I'd been longing for. "Come here." I took a hesitant step forward, allowing her gentle pull to guide me to sit beside her on the sofa. She leaned in close, startling me with this unexpected intimacy the first time she'd actively sought my company all day. Her fingertips traced a path along my chin, urging me to look at her. "Don't move," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Let me look at you." Our faces were so close I could see myself reflected in her bright eyes, a moment of quiet intimacy that felt both vulnerable and precious. And then it struck me with absolute certainty. This was A-Chen. A blush crept up her cheeks as she gazed at me, an unspoken sentiment hanging in the air. "There's no one else here." For a moment, I didn't grasp what she truly meant, my mind still reeling from the recent turmoil. And then, slowly, she leaned closer still, her voice husky with desire. Do you still want to kiss me?" Her breath was sweet against my skin, and her eyes held such familiar tenderness the way they had in my past life. That's when it all came flooding back. That day, those videos were leaked online, igniting a frenzy of speculation about our relationship. It quickly devolved into rumors that Ki Kingru was betrothed to Susumuha, an engagement reportedly arranged months before and kept secret until now. He even posted cryptic messages on Weibo hinting at my downfall, insinuating I was destined for ruin. Despite hasty apologies and Ki Kingru's fierce public defense, her claiming she had been the one pursuing me, no one believed it. The backlash was brutal, relentless. My family shunned me, their disappointment a heavy weight upon my shoulders, and Shiamomo. Well, that was a whole other story of betrayal and manipulation I still struggled to understand. The way she looked at me was so distant, filled with disgust. It hurt terribly back then. Overwhelmed and lost, I lashed out, taking all that pain out on Ki Kingru. She looked at me just like this with such gentle concern, but I misinterpreted her kindness as malice. It took me a long time to finally understand the truth. Those eyes held a deep, suppressed love she'd carried for years. A love for me. Suddenly snapping back to reality, Ki Kingru playfully bit her lip and asked, "Do you not want to kiss anymore?" My arms instinctively wrapped around her waist, but then I hesitated. Were we not going to? Her voice held a shy sweetness, almost a plea. "I'll let Chen kiss me." My cheeks burned until a fragmented memory from my past life flooded back, and I knew I had to address something crucial right away. Gently pushing her back slightly, I asked, "Are you and Sumu-He getting engaged?" She froze. "Who is Sumu-He?" she asked, seemingly confused. It was odd she'd explained him to me before. Damn it. There was nothing going on between them. Their families had once set them up, but she'd rejected him outright. But now, we were trending again, and if things followed the same pattern as my past life, tomorrow the news of their engagement would explode across social media. Sumu-He would post something too. I needed to stop this before it spiraled into another public disaster. People rarely believe explanations that come later. I glared at her, reminding her about Sumu-He, the second young master of the influential Su family who'd recently returned from abroad. Didn't you go on a blind date with him? How is it possible you don't even know who he is? I remembered seeing them together in my past life, when Sumu-He and I walked out of a private room. Jealousy burned inside me as I muttered to myself then, why do I keep running into her everywhere? Now realizing what that was, jealousy. She was on a blind date, pretending not to know him. I tried to pull away from her embrace. Ah, Shen, she murmured softly before seemingly remembering something and asked, "Are you talking about Sumu?" The ache in my heart intensified at the familiar nickname. "You call him Sumu?" "But you still use my full name," I complained. She looked helpless. "Everyone calls him that." "I don't even know his real name. What else am I supposed to call him?" Sumu he had gone abroad as a child and wasn't well connected with the elite of the capital. "I only met him once. I really can't remember his name." "Everyone just calls him Sumu." She then nuzzled her face into my chest affectionately, a playful smile in her voice. "Besides, if calling him Sumu is intimate, do you want me to call you Shida from now on?" I was utterly speechless. Shida sounded terrible. I decided not to argue and pressed further, asking doubtfully, "What did you say when you went on that blind date with him?" Ki Kingru pouted. "Does meeting once even count as a blind date?" With a sigh, I recalled my grandmother's instructions. She did tell me to meet him once, but before I got to the restaurant, I didn't know who I was meeting. I paused, recalling her words from my past life. I rejected him flat out. Her family would respect her decision, of course. They don't need a marriage for convenience anyway. My parents naturally prioritize what I want. Besides, my grandmother arranged it back then. My grandmother and Sumu's grandmother were best friends when they were young, even though they drifted apart later on. But Sumu's grandmother brought it up first. My grandmother wanted to give her face, so she told me to go meet him once. You absolutely can't call it an intended arranged marriage. I fell into deep thought, but they really didn't have anything going on. I breathed a sigh of relief. It's just that Sumu posting on Weibo definitely has to be stopped. What should I do? Ki Kingru looked at me, looking a bit confused. Cheyenne is acting weirder and weirder, she murmured. Even though she was sure it was me, something just felt off. She tilted her head and looked at Mao Qiu, who was still curled up beside her. The way it looked at me was never very friendly. Ki Kingru pouted at me. "How long ago was that anyway? You even glared at me back then. Did you think I didn't notice?" she teased. "Why are you suddenly bringing this up now?" Her small face clearly showed her displeasure. Was I trying to reject her? Was this a lame excuse to brush me off? She couldn't keep up the act any longer. I looked at her, softening my voice. "I'm not pretending." Then I challenged her, "Prove it to me." Ki Kingru moved closer to me, whispering, "Ah Chen, come a little closer." "If Ah Chen won't kiss me, then I'll just kiss him. I don't want to hold back anymore. He was the one who approached me first anyway." My heart fluttered as I braced myself for her move. Just as I was about to say something, Ki Kingru slowly leaned in, the tip of her nose almost touching my cheek. My heart pounded. Her gentleness felt completely different from anything I'd experienced in my past life. There had been almost no tenderness then, only distance. Suddenly, Mao Qiu became agitated beside Ki Kingru, squirming and making a fuss on her lap. Ki Kingru turned her head to look at the disruptive cat, clearly unhappy, and softly scolded it. The cat meowed pitifully. I said to her, feeling a bit uneasy, "Ki Kingru, I don't want to stay here anymore." Ki Kingru noticed something was wrong with me, so she took my hand ready to leave. Seeing that we were about to leave, Mao Qiu lightly jumped down to the floor to follow us, but a single glare from Ki Kingru stopped it in its tracks. It let out a mournful meow and lay flat on the ground looking at me pitifully. It really was the cat I raised. The look in its eyes was strangely similar to mine. Ki Kingru completely ignored it, leading me back to her room. "I told you it was fierce," I whispered in her ear. "So what should we do?" she asked, looking at me with a playful expression as she walked toward the kitchen. I frowned. I had raised Mao Qiu for 4 whole years. It was a birthday gift someone gave me. I never found out who sent it. The card left at the door just said, "Happy birthday." Back then, my friends even mocked the sender for gifting such an ordinary-looking cat. They all forgot that I had loved cats since I was a kid. The cat I'd had when I was little was taken away because after Jibai came to the Sea family, he was allergic to cat hair, so they got rid of it. Now I know Mao Qiu was a gift from Ki Kingru. I couldn't bear to give it up. It's just that the current situation might really not be suitable for keeping it anymore. I looked at Ki Kingru's back as she poured water, and suddenly an idea struck me. "From now on," I declared, "I'll stay at your place. We'll let Song Yi downstairs help me take care of Mao Qiu. Once Mao Qiu stops rejecting me, I'll move back." Ki Kingru turned around holding a glass of water, looking at me with a mischievous expression. "Then why don't you just give the cat directly to Song Yi and have him take it away?" I started spouting nonsense with a straight face. "Mao Qiu is used to the scent of the house." She smiled, offering me a glass of water. So you're saying you don't get homesick at all? I took a sip and flashed her a playful grin. I don't miss home. I just get attached to people. It's as long as you're here that I can sleep and eat well and be perfectly behaved. Her voice softened, Shi-chen. We met each other's gaze, and she gently pinched my ear. You've turned into a completely different person, she teased, but I felt a flicker of something unsettling within me. My hand trembled almost imperceptibly as I gripped the glass tighter. Just using your imagination, I insisted, forcing myself to appear carefree. But a knot formed in my stomach. What if she sensed something was wrong? What if she started keeping her distance like Momo did? Before I could worry further, she wrapped her arms around my waist and pressed her forehead against mine. It was a moment she wouldn't have even dared to dream of. For years, HN always kept his distance from her. Every time she saw H happily walking beside Momo, she'd wanted to ask what he liked about her. Surely she wasn't inferior? She did once ask him, half-jokingly, what exactly do you like about Momo? You'd be better off liking me. But he just said, I don't have those kinds of feelings for you. For so many years, Ki Kingru often thought, HN, if you would just give me a fraction of the tenderness he shows Momo, I would be so incredibly happy. Now, it felt like a beautiful dream had come true. HN was right in front of her saying he loved her, wanting a future with her, actively seeking closeness. Suddenly, Song Yi burst into the room, startling us. Ki Kingru, what's going on? Why are you asking me to give the cat a rabies vaccine? Her exclamation broke the spell, and I scooped Ki Kingru up to carry her away. Song Yi stood frozen in the doorway, bewildered by what she'd witnessed. She clearly saw something more than a simple conversation. Ki Kingru shot me a mischievous glance as we re-emerged, and Song Yi's smile was laced with suggestion. I didn't see anything, she purred, closing the door behind her. Leaning against the door, Liang Cheng chuckled softly before stepping out of the elevator with a medical kit. What are you doing standing here? She asked, peering past Ki Kingru. Then her eyes widened. Does Ki Kingru really have a pet in there? Song Yi replied cryptically, nodding slowly. Not just one. There's a cat too. They're having a disagreement. And with that cryptic warning, she told us to wait for them to finish their fight before entering. I found myself speechless, wondering how we could possibly go on after what had happened. Ki Kingru laughed, her eyes twinkling. Already embarrassed. You weren't so restrained in public. How can you be so different now that we're at home and have an audience? She took my hand and swung it playfully, teasingly asking, Are we sneaking around? I looked down, a little softly, stating firmly, I think we might be. A mixture of amusement and exasperation flickered across her face as she struggled to reconcile my words with the romantic moment we'd just shared. So Ki Kingru really doesn't want to make our relationship public? It's frustrating when she acts so reserved in front of others, pushing me away, then turns around and is incredibly forward with me privately. I tilted my head, wanting her to understand what I was seeing, her constant rejection whenever we were out together. Look, when we're outside, you don't let me get close. Count it yourself. How many times did you reject me out there today? She looked genuinely taken aback by my playful teasing, and for a moment she seemed almost daring. Then, impulsively, she looped her arm through mine and looked up at me with a mischievous glint in her eyes. Are you saying I should call them in right now and continue what we were doing right in front of them? Fine. Before I could even respond, Ki Kingru nodded, then released my arm and headed toward the living room. Clearly, she didn't believe I'd actually do that. But thankfully, she didn't try to stop her. Would I dare to initiate anything? She was truly both angry and amused. I took a long drink of water, still processing her actions, when Ki Kingru opened the door for Liang Cheng and Song Ye. They wandered in, completely oblivious to the tension that just filled the room. It was then I realized what Song Yi meant by cats and dogs, a veiled reference to our relationship's ups and downs. Song Yi's eyes widened as she noticed Ki Kingru's casual demeanor. You're already calling him brother-in-law? She playfully challenged her, a knowing look in her eyes. Ki Kingru just smiled confidently, winning that stare down effortlessly. Liang Cheng readily followed suit, offering their own greetings. The sudden attention made me feel strangely embarrassed, but I returned the polite greeting. Hello to you both. Ki Kingru's expression softened as she watched them acknowledge me, clearly pleased with their progress. You two make yourselves at home for a bit, she said, then walked over to me. Song Yi and Liang Cheng settled on the sofa, and a curious Liang Cheng asked, Sister Ki Kingru, are you going to get a rabies vaccine? Seeing us sharing another intimate moment, Song Yi's face immediately fell, covering her mouth to stifle a laugh. We both froze, realizing how bold our actions had seemed. I shook my head emphatically. This wasn't about me not wanting to go public. It was about Ki Kingru's unusual behavior. A blush crept across her cheeks as she added, "If this isn't enough for you, then we can be completely open about it in front of those two." I quickly covered her mouth, a wave of exasperation washing over me. She's just as unpredictable as she was in my past life. She stared at me intently, and I felt a faint touch on my palm before instinctively pulling away. It seemed that getting that rabies shot might be the safest option for everyone involved. She practically pulled me toward the bathroom and insisted I shower first, reminding me of the fresh toiletries waiting there and promising to fetch clean clothes downstairs. I showered quickly and reminded her to hang my clothes and bring a few extra sets along, please. She smiled gently, then disappeared down the hall. When I returned to the living room, everyone seemed curious about my earlier conversation. They were all perched on the sofa, staring at me with odd expressions. I gave them my most nonchalant look and asked, "What are you looking at?" Song Yi teased, shaking her head. "Tisk, Ki Kingru. I didn't realize you had a secretive side." I shrugged. "It's fine. You'll be the same once you get a boyfriend." Song Yi playfully pouted and retorted, "I'm not like you." Then she darted off, chasing after me with an eager whine. "Please tell me about Jiang Fan. I want to know." I feigned innocence. "Didn't you just say you weren't like me?" She insisted, her voice sweet and pleading. "No, I am. Like you, my kind and lovely Ki Kingru. Please tell me about him." I paused at the door and gave her a pointed look before turning to Wenjing. "Wenjing, go find him." She dropped her playful act immediately, her expression becoming serious as she thanked me. Then she practically flew out the door. Wenjing sat on the sofa for a moment, then asked hesitantly, "Is Jiang Fan really in Gangcheng?" I confirmed, "Yes, he just arrived this afternoon." I watched her quickly disappear into the elevator and then added, "I heard he went with a girlfriend." Wenjing frowned slightly. "What about Yuan?" My tone was calm and even-handed. "If she can win him back, that's wonderful. If not, she needs to accept it. She pushed him away in the first place." I didn't dwell on it any further. "Just relax for a while. I'm going downstairs to pack things for Shi Chen." She nodded and agreed. As I headed down the stairs, the house cat immediately wound around my legs, meowing plaintively. "Why were you so fierce with Chen?" I asked softly, rubbing its head. It couldn't answer, just nestled closer. I sighed gently and added playfully, "Don't try to charm me. Tomorrow someone is trimming your nails." The upper and lower floors mirrored each other in design as I found my way to the master bedroom, flicking on the lights as I stepped inside. The walk-in closet was sparsely populated with clothes, a concerning detail. He usually varied his outfits. Lately, he'd been wearing the same few sets over and over again. I selected a comfortable set of pajamas for him, then opened a drawer filled with undergarments, blushing slightly at the display. I quickly gathered a few items into a bag when my fingers brushed against something small and velvet-covered. It was a familiar black box, one I'd seen before in Song Yi's styling studio. I remembered asking her then, "Is it too plain? Will she even like it?" Song Yi had rolled her eyes and said, "Even an expensive gift might not impress her. The fact that you are thinking about getting her anything at all is enough." That's when I first saw Wenjing. I'd quickly averted my gaze, embarrassed by what I was thinking. She likely guessed I wasn't saying something complimentary. It was clear who the item inside this box was intended for. Driven by a sudden impulse, I picked up the box and opened it with trembling fingers. Inside lay a beautiful, exquisite hairpin. A folded note lay beneath the hairpin. Ki Kingru pursed her lips, carefully pulling the note out. "Momo, happy birthday." My heart sank to the very bottom. Even though I knew it was coming, a wave of pain washed over me. If I remember correctly, Xiaomomo's birthday was 3 days ago. Why wasn't Chen's gift sent out? If I remember correctly, Xiaomomo's birthday was 3 days ago. Why wasn't Chen's gift sent out? Ki Kingru closed her eyes. "Shi Chen, why won't you choose me? Is it because Xiaomomo hurt you?" "So, you're just treating me as a rebound?" Forcing down the trembling in my fingertips, I placed the box back, packed up the things, and turned to leave. When I returned to the bedroom, the sound of running water in the bathroom hadn't stopped. I hung his clothes on the door and knocked. The water quickly stopped. His deep, warm voice rang out, "Ki Kingru, is that you?" My voice carried an irrepressible disappointment as I replied, "I hung your clothes on the door." Grab them yourself in a bit, he responded. I'll be right out. Gently, I said, no need to rush. I was about to say something else, but ultimately just lowered my eyes and turned to walk out. Not long after, Shi Chen stepped out of the bathroom and sat down next to Qi Qingru, letting Liang Chengcheng administer the rabies vaccine. She watched from the side with a frown as I endured the shot. When the needle pierced my arm, the slight sting made me furrow my brows. Her eyes wavered slightly. Liang Chengcheng didn't want to stick around any longer. She acutely sensed that something was off with the atmosphere. So, after giving instructions and the date for the next dose, she hurriedly took her leave. I looked up at Qi Qingru. Our eyes met. Qi Qingru, what's wrong? I asked in confusion. She seems perfectly fine. Before I went to shower, Qi Qingru didn't answer. She reached out and wrapped her arms around my neck, leaning close to my ear and whispering, "Do you want to marry me?" I couldn't quite believe my ears. Marry me? She stayed pressed against my ear. Let's get engaged right now, engaged right now. My mind felt dazed. Get engaged right now? I asked. She pressed close to my ear, asking softly, Chen, do you want to marry me? A wave of memories crashed over me. Marriage. In my past life, Qi Qingru had brought it up many times. Once I treated her coldly, then I was unwilling, and finally she stopped mentioning it altogether. But in the drawer of her office, I'd seen a pair of custom-made diamond wedding rings. I'd secretly taken one out and tried it on. It fit perfectly. My silence seemed to freeze her breath. It was so quiet you could clearly hear a heartbeat. Her voice carried a hint of disappointment. Chen, do you not want to? Of course not. I'm more willing than anyone else. Qi Qingru finally dared to turn her head and look me straight in the eyes. Qi Qingru, I'm so happy. I picked her up and spun her around in a circle. Qi Qingru, I like you so much. I want to marry you. Really? Her heart clenched. If she hadn't known me since childhood, if she hadn't just seen that unsent hairpin from 2 days ago, she would have actually believed me this time. Liar, she thought, even as a flicker of hope ignited within her. Then, pouting playfully, she declared, Chen, you better remember what you just said. If I find out you're lying to me, I couldn't help but press, then what? Then I'll stick to you and never leave your side. I'll cling to you every single day. My heart raced at her words. She was becoming more and more like the Qi Qingru I know. Just when Qi Qingru thought I'd be scared off by her words, I smiled brightly. Deal. I curiously asked further, but you said we're getting engaged right now. It's almost morning. How are we going to prepare in time? She pouted apologetically. As long as Chen agrees, there's always enough time. About an hour later, bags filled with all kinds of clothes and jewelry were piled high in the living room. It's because it's too late, she explained with a pout. I had them send over more dresses all custom-made just for you. Pick one out and let's take some pictures tomorrow. She disappeared into a room to change, slipping on a pristine white gown. I chose an outfit from the pile of bags that mirrored hers. Matching couples sets really are her style. The doorbell chimed and Qi Qingru leaned in to give me a quick kiss before heading toward the door. Go get it, I teased, smiling. We'll have all the time in the world once we're married. She nodded and opened the door, revealing staff from our wedding planning agency alongside representatives from a high-end boutique. The moment they saw us together, their whispers started immediately. Apparently, before arriving, they'd been gossiping about someone being tormented at night to force this rushed marriage. They wondered if I was holding something over Qi Qingru's family if the rumors about my leverage were true. The next day, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau for our official registration photos. The staff instantly recognized us, their eyes brimming with an almost palpable curiosity. We sat close together, shoulder to shoulder, and then Qi Qingru suddenly paused. Wait, she murmured. I looked at her, puzzled. What's wrong? She gently adjusted my tie, easing the tension I hadn't realized was there. It's a little crooked. Let me fix it for you. I smiled at the sight of this sweet and gentle woman beside me. Is that better? She asked, and she kissed my cheek lightly. Perfect. I caught the staff's shocked, but delighted expressions as I chuckled softly, and they beamed back. So sweet. The cuteness is overwhelming. You can't possibly believe those internet rumors. Qi Qingru's cheeks flushed a little as she linked her arm through mine. All right, she said to the photographer, take the picture. Through their lens, I could sense how much they were enjoying the moment. Seeing these two on trending searches today, I thought it was all filters and editing, but those looks are genuinely breathtaking. They handed us our marriage certificates, red booklets, symbolizing a lifetime together. That's when Qi Qingru seemed to truly grasp what had just happened. Chen is actually my husband now, she breathed, tracing the text on the certificate with trembling fingers. She turned to me, and I noticed she was staring at her own certificate in disbelief. A hint of worry crossed her lips as she wondered if I was happy or regretting this. As we left the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ki Kingru distributed small thank you gifts to the staff. They wished us a lifetime of love and happiness. Her eyes softened further when she replied with a sincere thank you. Back home, I found myself still staring at my marriage certificate. What are you looking at? Are you unhappy? But I looked up and smiled directly at her. Ki Kingru. My voice was full of warmth. Eagerly, I asked, "Can I post this on Weibo?" When she'd expressed wanting to marry me, I knew I'd get around to this moment eventually. Isn't it the perfect solution? If I release these photos and go public, won't that resolve the situation with Su Mu? Ki Kingru hadn't expected me to want to announce our marriage publicly quite so soon. She sat down beside me, a little dazed. Then I frowned. But I don't have my phone. Song Yai has it, and he's always managed my Weibo account. A mischievous smile lit up Ki Kingru's face. Then I'll post it. She snapped a few pictures of the marriage certificates and posted them on a barely used social media account, instantly sending the internet into a frenzy. Our caption, "No matter the time, no matter the meals or the seasons, we will stay together until our hair turns gray." And with that one image, she'd answered every question, shut down every rumor. I stared at her post, my expression softening as I realized just how clever she was being. I suddenly realized something and asked, "Your parents still don't know we're married?" Ki Kingru laughed softly. "Hubby." My heart skipped a beat, my cheeks flushing. She burst into laughter, teasing me. I was confused. Think about what? She stepped closer, her voice low. Decide if you want to chat in the living room all night or go our separate ways. I paused, puzzled. Is there really a difference? Ki Kingru just blinked and challenged me to choose. I thought for a moment before taking her hand. Then come rest with me, Ki Kingru. She looked down at our joined hands and cautioned, "Don't regret this, Chen." I was baffled. Why would I? That night, she playfully pulled the covers up and removed all of her clothes without a second thought. "What are you doing?" I asked, bewildered. "Sleeping, obviously," she replied calmly. "How else could I sleep properly?" I frowned slightly as she gestured me closer from under the blanket. "Come on, sleep here." Her eyes were mischievous, daring me to object. "Otherwise, what? Did you have other plans?" "We're married now, you know," she said playfully. I hesitantly asked her if she was sure about this our wedding night and all. Ki Kingru simply blinked at me then, "'Cause I still need time to process this." She didn't want my impulsive feelings. We were married after all, and patience would serve us both better. She looked into my eyes, a sly smile playing on her lips. "Chen is my husband now," she said softly. "Whether he truly loves me or not, he completely belongs to me." I questioned if she was sure about this plan. It felt so abrupt. She smiled and responded that I didn't need to prepare. She would slowly adapt instead. "Give me some time, Chen." "Okay." And with that, the lights went out, leaving us in darkness. The sound of our quiet breathing filled the room as I drifted off quickly, enveloped by her scent. Ki Kingru remained wide awake, desperately hoping this wasn't just a dream from which she'd soon awaken. Then I began speaking in my sleep. "Nightmare." "I don't want to." She froze instantly, fear seizing her. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat. My hand instinctively reached up to touch my face, confirming the impossible. The scar was gone. The uneven texture had vanished. After a moment of shaky breaths, I opened my eyes to find Ki Kingru wasn't there. When I glanced at the clock, it read 6:30 a.m., far too early to be awake. I threw off the covers and headed out onto the balcony where I found her gazing into the living room. Wrapping my arms around her waist from behind, I asked why she was up so early. She stiffened slightly before turning around. "Why didn't you sleep longer?" Concerned, I noticed that she looked unwell. "Did you sleep well last night?" Her eyes met mine and she returned the question. "What about you, Chen? Did you sleep well?" My answer was troubled. I shook my head. "Not really." A faint smile touched her lips as she pressed. "Why?" Rubbing my temples, I struggled to explain. "I had a nightmare." She asked softly. "What kind of nightmare?" I frowned, unable to put the unsettling images into words. I dreamed about that day in my past life. When I came home and Shiamomo was already waiting there. When she saw me walk through the door, she told me she'd given me that glass of wine. She said I had no choice but to drink it. Momo threw things at me, frustrated. I don't need you, she spat. My arms tightened around Ki Kingru instinctively as I heard her words. She gently patted my back, trying to soothe me. It's okay, just a nightmare. But she wasn't fooled. She could feel the stiffness in my body. Now that I think about it, the things I said during that nightmare, the tone of my voice, they were filled with an unsettling insecurity. She hadn't realized it then, blinded by her own jealousy. Ki Kingru called my name softly, a tremor in her voice. Ah-chen? She asked gently, did Momo do something terrible to you? I didn't understand what she meant. Like what? Her hand reached out and stroked my face, a tender gesture that brought back memories I desperately wanted to bury. No, I said quickly, pulling away slightly. That's all from the past life. Besides, she already got her karma in that life. In this one, Momo has no more chances. A wave of heartache crossed Ki Kingru's face. Fearing I would see it, she took a deep breath and forced herself to compose herself. It was good that she did. She buried her face against my chest, seeking comfort. Then, suddenly she asked me, the Shi family is hosting a banquet today. Do you want to go? My attention snapped to the unexpected question. The Shi family's celebration banquet. I really didn't want to go. I had no desire to see any of them. They were worse than strangers to me. Ki Kingru looked up at me, her eyes filled with a playful light. If Ah-chen wants to go, I'll take you. Confused, I asked, why would we go? She smiled, radiating confidence. To watch a joke unfold, of course. A genuine smile spread across my face. All right, then. The truth was, the Shi family was probably looking for me right now. They just couldn't reach me while I was here with Ki Kingru, and they wouldn't dare cause trouble at her place. That's why I had enjoyed a brief period of peace. But sooner or later, I knew I would have to face them. The banquet was scheduled for noon. After a simple breakfast, Ki Kingru retreated to the study. Her phone buzzed incessantly with trending searches and notifications. She ignored it all, turning off the ringer without a second thought. She called her parents back. They were traveling somewhere far away, and then replied to messages from a few friends. I went back to the bedroom for a little more sleep. When I woke up, Ki Kingru had already arranged for someone to deliver a high-end suit, and a stylist was waiting to do my hair. She sat nearby, glued to her phone, typing furiously. I couldn't imagine what she was doing on it. Finally ready, I stood up and asked Ki Kingru, is your husband handsome? Hearing my voice, she looked up from her phone, a playful smile dancing on her lips. She put the phone down, stood up, and walked over to me, nodding enthusiastically. Very handsome. Then she too changed into a matching high-end evening gown. When her styling was complete, I gazed at her with an intensity that felt almost possessive, unable to resist leaning in and planting a soft kiss on her cheek. My Ki Kingru is so beautiful. As we stood side by side, Ki Kingru suddenly felt a pang of regret. She didn't want Momo to see Chen looking like this, so confident, so handsome. What should I do? She wondered. But then she thought better of it. No, letting Chen show him off will just make everyone else die of envy. He's my husband, after all. The stylist nearby squealed with delight. So sweet. You two are such a perfect match. Ki Kingru's smile widened even further as she looked up at me. Chen, did you hear that? Everyone thinks we're the perfect match, she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with joy. I reached out and gently rubbed the top of her head, my voice laced with an indulgence I had never shown anyone else. I naturally tightened my grip on her hand. In that moment, I felt like I was breaking free from all the shackles of my past. Before, I always endured, constantly holding back, afraid to draw attention to myself. I was used to being humble, hiding my sharp edges, but now I just wanted to be as high profile as possible. I wanted to stand beside my girl and declare this love to the entire world. My blatant favoritism brought a blush to Ki Kingru's cheeks. Let's go then, I said with a smile. I want everyone to see that my husband is the absolute best. I nodded, letting her lead me by the hand out of the living room. As we stepped through the doorway, we ran straight into Momo, lurking in the hallway's corner. She'd dressed herself up in an elaborate dress, meticulously applied makeup, but her eyes were fixed on us, burning with resentment and a desperate obsession. For so long, she schemed against us, whispering malicious rumors about Ki Kingru, twisting our relationship into something it wasn't. She tried to drive a wedge between us, hoping to steal what rightfully belonged to Ki Kingru. She's always been like that, I thought, so calculating, so determined to have what isn't hers. How dare she show her face now? Seeing us together, fingers tightly intertwined, radiating affection, her carefully constructed facade crumbled. All the schemes, the fabricated rumors, the attempts at framing Ki Kingru, the bribes, I knew them all. I hadn't acted before to shield Ki Kingru from that ugliness, but that doesn't mean I tolerate your viciousness. You spread baseless rumors about Ki Kingru, I said, enunciating each word clearly. You secretly plotted to frame her, drove a wedge between us, even bribed others to maliciously smear our relationship. I know every single thing you did. Shiamomo's face drained of color as the staff member she'd attempted to bribe stepped forward and confessed everything. The truth was laid bare, her sinister plots exposed for all to see. Her reputation crumbled, her carefully built connections vanished like smoke. She faced a tragic price: alienation from friends, abandonment by family, a fate no one would pity. I looked down at Ki Kingru nestled in my arms and reassured her. It's okay now, I said softly. The trouble is taken care of. No one can bother us anymore. She gazed up at me, her eyes sparkling like the starry sky. Ah, Chen, she asked, her voice filled with a fragile hope. Are these annoyances really over for good? Yes, I replied, my voice filled with certainty. Our future will only be filled with peace and joy. And it was. A few days later, our wedding day arrived, a glorious celebration of love under a cascade of flowers, bathed in warm sunlight. Everyone who had ever shown us kindness, who'd offered genuine support throughout the years, were there to witness our vows. I saw Wenjing smiling warmly from the crowd. She'd always been a quiet supporter. Song Yai stood near her, his expression unreadable as usual. I stood at the end of the floral aisle, tuxedo sharp, and my gaze locked on Ki Kingru. The moment she appeared in a pristine white gown, everything else vanished. She walked towards me, each step brimming with love, eyes reflecting starlight. I reached out, taking her hand as I spoke from the heart. I faced storms alone before you. I've seen the darkness of the world, felt its chill. I believed my life would be quiet and lonely until you. You taught me gentleness, showed me how to care, what it means to cherish someone completely. Today I take you as my wife. From this day forward, I will protect you, spoil you, love you for all our days together. I will never leave you, never abandon you. Ki Kingru's eyes glistened with tears, overflowing with emotion. For the rest of my life, she whispered, I only want to be by your side. That's all that matters, I thought, or happiness. A joyous uproar filled the hall as thunderous applause erupted from the guests. She Yubai watched us from a distance, his expression unreadable, but I didn't dwell on him. I slipped a ring onto her finger and held her close, enveloped in a warmth that radiated outwards. The sun shone down, countless blossoms bloomed, and blessings poured over us, the culmination of every good thing we'd ever hoped for. The storms were behind us, our journey together was just beginning. It all felt so certain then that Ki Kingru and I were destined to share a life brimming with quiet joy, an endless tapestry woven with love and contentment. For years, it seemed our paths were irrevocably intertwined, leading us towards a future filled with warmth and belonging.